G'day guys, how you doing? It's the Kiwi, back with another video. Got my whiteboard, got me some markers, go. Let's see what we can do here. Time for some doodle art. What I wanted to do is I wanted to do a video on, and I've been wanting to do this for a while now, and basically after, over the weekend I had an individual here in New Zealand jump on my channel and just pretty much berate me. Some of the stuff that he was saying was honestly pretty derogatory. I'm open to a fair, valid conversation. I know that I don't know it all, and I'm always open to learning. I've had a number of my subscribers over the years actually correct me on stuff, and I've made the correction. Sometimes I've pinned them in the actual comment section and actually thank the person for bringing to light new knowledge, new information. I'm always grateful for that. However, when somebody starts berating me and starts abusing me and is just in general a pretty nasty individual, all you're going to get is you're just going to get blocked. That's all there is to it. I'm an adult. I expect to be treated and spoken to as an adult, and I expect the individuals, I will treat the individual with the same level of respect as I expect to be treated myself. And if somebody's not going to treat me at the level of respect that I feel is necessary for me, then I'm sorry, they're out of there. I didn't start this channel to win a popularity contest. I started this channel to help people, predominantly men. And if some women want to watch it and learn about how men think and operate, well, that's great also. But what I wanted to do was, after this weekend and after the beratement that I was getting from this individual, I felt it was time to do a video in regards to how far left the pendulum has swung. So what I did was I just simply laid out a simple line, obviously, where we've got the left and the right of the political spectrum, and this here is just basically your political pendulum. Well, since, for a very long time, the political pendulum has obviously just swung right to left, okay? Nothing too major about that, and it usually didn't get too far past the moderate point. This is always your center point, so you had your center left and then your center right. So you always had your moderate people on the right and you always had your moderate people on the left. And that was pretty much where the pendulum swung, okay? But what's happened today, okay, is the pendulum has literally swung out here. It has gone so far left, it is freaking unbelievable. I mean, it's gone so far left that the majority, a huge amount of today's millennials are quite happy to, they would actually be quite happy if, say, the United States was a communist country, Marxist country. They're so happy to just turn their lives over to be ran and controlled by a government, for a better term. So what's happened, and this is part of the reason, this is actually part of the reason why Jordan Peterson is hated by the left, but also hated by the right. Because what's happened, as this pendulum has swung so far left, right, that what it's done is it's taken this central point and it's moved it pretty much over to this moderate point. So you could actually take the moderate point of the left now being the center, okay? This is no longer the center in any way, shape or form. The pendulum is now moved all the way over here. So what that's done is it's taken some of the right, the moderates on the right, and it's slowly but surely moved them over center to the new center. Now, this is where Jordan Peterson, and I'll utilize Jordan Peterson because it's actually a very, very good example, because Jordan Peterson has openly admitted that he never thought he'd see the day where classic liberal beliefs and ideologies would be considered conservative. Okay? So Peterson, as a young lad, he would have been most probably somewhere around this area here, okay? So his beliefs are moderate liberal, classic liberal beliefs, as he has called himself, a classic liberal, okay? But here's what's happened, is the people that used to be moderates on the conservative side, they're now Nazis. They're now fascists. These dyed-in-the-wall, good old-fashioned conservatives, the ones that want less government, the ones that want less taxation, the ones that want to keep some element of sanity in the world, these are now Nazis. These are now fascists. And the reality of the situation is that they're not. These are just regular old conservatives that just want to hold on to their own old beliefs and ideologies, which there's nothing wrong with that in any way, shape or form. But because this pendulum has moved so far this way that these guys have been left in the wilderness, and these guys, what used to be considered classic liberals, are now conservatives. Seriously, I'm not kidding you. The modern day Democrat or the modern day liberal or the modern day member of, say, the Labour Party, the majority of them have these communist, Marxist beliefs. I mean, you only have to look at what they're trying to do and you can see this. But this is where it gets really interesting. If you have, say, some stronger classic conservative views, like people like myself, good old-fashioned libertarian views, where we want minimal amount of government, a minimal amount of interference in regards to our lives, a minimal amount of regulation, all the exact opposite of what these guys here want. Because these guys here, these fellas that are off the chart, these guys are now communists. That's all there is to it. I don't care what anybody says. I've studied communism, I've studied Marxism. These guys out here are now communists. That's all there is to it. End of story. And the proof, like I said, the proof is in the fact that so many millennials today would be quite happy to turn their world over to what they would call basically a benevolent dictator, like a Lenin or somebody like that. And let me assure you something, Lenin was no benevolent dictator. I've traveled Russia, Ukraine, I've studied that stuff for a long time. And I don't care what anybody says, the further left you go, the uglier it gets. But here's the thing, if you were over on this side here, okay, let's say once you go past this point on out, this is kind of the ground of man going their own way. MGTOW, right? If you want less taxation than these guys, if you want less government involvement than what these guys wanted, if you want to be a free man, if you don't want to have to kowtow down to a court system or a legal system because of marriage or something along that lines, we are now the extreme, the absolute extreme guys right out here on the far right. And the reality of the situation is that that is why the people here, these guys, have such a hard time with us. Plain and simple. That's all there is to it. Because these guys are all about rules, regulations, ultimate control, the whole 9 yards. And the irony of it is, even though these guys call these folk over here fascists and Nazis and everything like that, they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Because when you look at what the Nazis did, if you looked at what the fascists did, they were more in common with the communists. The communists, the commies, the Nazis, and the fascists all had one thing in common: socialism. Socialism. We're not about socialism. We're about going our own way, doing our own bloody thing, minding our own business, wanting to learn about ourselves, want to better ourselves. We want to grow as an individual, not as a collective. However, that's the direction that the world is going today. It's going to a collective. A collective is a very feminist mindset. A collective is extremely feminine. It's a very feminine ideology, very feminine belief, because females work in the collective. Men predominantly, we're more wired to go our own way, do our own thing, etc., etc. So that's why you're seeing so many more feminized men these days, after the education system, after, you know, the indoctrination that they get. And how I saw a comment in a comment section on another video today where a guy says you need to obey women. We don't need to really obey anybody. The only individual, if there was one, that you most probably could say that you should obey is God. But outside of that, you're a creature of free will. So this is why the left today have such a hard time. It's actually why the left have a hard time with Jordan Peterson, because Jordan Peterson today isn't radical enough. He's not radical enough for these guys, these people here. And the reason why these people, as I said, have a hard time with these guys, because we don't want to follow what these guys are putting down. That's why they have a hard time with us, which is really ironic, because the individual that was berating the living shit out of me over this weekend, he considered himself a libertarian. Absolutely mind-blowing, but every part of how he acted and how he berated me was this, because he hated this. He hated the fact that I was a MGTOW. So, don't know really what to say about that. Each person can have their own belief. But I want to explain to you guys, my subs, on why the left is having such a hard time with us. So, I hope this has helped out in some way, shape or form. But it's primarily because the political pendulum has swung so far left. And it's unbelievable. It's swung so far left that today's modern Democrat or liberal is basically a communist, and the actual conservatives have been moved, the conservatives have been pulled over, and today's modern conservative is actually falls into this category here, from here to here. Today's modern conservative is actually a classic liberal of the 60s. That's pretty much it. So if you're back over here and you're happy over here, there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to hate us straight up, and that's what we're seeing. So as I said, I hope this has helped you guys. I hope it's shed some light on the subject. Excuse my amateurish doodle art. But hey, I did the best that I could to try to explain this for you fellas. So, other than that, till I see you next time, make it great, boys. Talk to you later, fellas. Cheers.